The L.O.V.E. Leadership Academy with Cindy Willcocks is a brand new podcast about dreaming big and living your best life. There is only now, this very moment in time. So let go of the past, avoid worrying about the future, and focus on being your authentic self.
Hi, I'm Cindy Willcocks. I'm the Director of R10 to Nurse Limited, and I'm also the Director of R10 Enriching the Next Generation. And I'm here today joined by the most amazing person that I've seen speak, and that's Korie. So I'm going to let Korie introduce herself.
Hi, Cindy. Thank you for having me. So fun to see you here. We normally get to see each other traveling the world, but today we get to see and meet here. So thank you for having me. And I'm honored to be here to talk about love and be a part of your program. So my name's Korie Minkus, and I am both the CEO of Industry Rockstar. We are the globe's leading business entrepreneur and mentorship program, offering over 3 million business owners training over the last decade and a half. And so we've had quite a journey in what we've done in 32 countries around the world. And I am also the sibling co-founder with my little brother of a company called Rock Your Product. And we work with service-based business owners and physical product-based business owners and help them understand how to create bigger, deeper impacts in the communities that they've created with physical products in the market. So that's what we do around the globe. And today I'm excited to be here to talk to you about love.
Thank you. And that's an amazing introduction there with all those things that you're doing. And I'm glad to be part of that program. It's amazing. And,
thank you. Yeah. We are honored to have you, Cindy.
So part of my journey has been the development of love leadership as a model for living a healthy, happy life. And I've used my experience as a mental health nurse and an EMDR therapist, so working with trauma, and thought about my own journey and came up with a framework for conversation, which was love leadership. So it's based on principles of love and integrity, as are both the businesses that I founded. And also it's an acronym which stands for Listen, Own, Voice and Power. And I'm really excited to be talking to you about it and sharing it more widely with the world, because I want to be part of people's journeys, as do you, in helping them reach their dreams, achieve their aspirations, and just live healthy, happy lives, really. So it's great to have you here talking about it.
Thank you, Cindy. Yeah. So running conscious businesses and having run conscious corporate businesses for almost 3 decades, I certainly appreciate the mission that you're on with Love Leadership and look forward to diving into that with you today.
Thank you, Korie.
Yeah.
So I've got a few questions for you. So the first question is the first point of love leadership. So I talk about listen. So that's actively listening to your body, to your mind, to your intuition, and knowing when not to listen. And I just wondered, can you remember a time where you were listened to, you felt that you were listened to, and what impact did that have?
Sure. Yeah, I'd love to. So I have 2 examples that I felt that really reflected listening. And number 1 is outward listening. So listening in a business environment. And the other is listening to yourself. And so 2 very important pieces, I think, of leadership in general and specifically talking to listening in love leadership. So I had an experience when I was young. I was working on a program with my boss and a very major retailer on the planet, Walmart, as you may know, one of the leading retailers on the planet. And I had a big opportunity with them to create an impact for a holiday experience that they were looking to create. It was a promotion that we were putting together that was going to go across all their stores, and it was worth about $10 million in revenue, this one deal we were putting together. And there was a lot of negotiations going back and forth and a lot of challenging conversations and, certainly a lot of pieces and nuances of putting together a big deal like this, right? A lot of stores, a lot of SKUs, a lot of pieces, a lot of moving parts, a lot of financials. And there were some roadblocks that were being hit through the way. And the gentleman I was working with at the time was super frustrated with the project. He was ready to walk away from it. He was, irritated with Walmart, not happy with the way the buyer was, responding to things. I mean, there's just like a high level of complexity that came into the circumstance. And I was able to spend a couple days really rationalizing through what was going on in an effort to save this deal and make it work. And, not only for ourselves, but to create that trust and that rapport with a major retailer that could then depend on us going forward. I mean, there were so many things at stake in this deal. And so I went to him and said, look, I think I have a solution to this experience, and I would like to run this experience the rest of the field. I would like to take the ball, run it down, and get it done. And here's the reasons why I'd like to do that. And so I presented to him a whole case. I like to say I want to be a lawyer, because I love the idea of really presenting not just the emotional facts when you're being listened to, but really creating confidence in the experience that you're creating for someone else so that they want to listen to you, that they're really connected to what you're saying. So I went through this whole experience with him, and he handed me the baton. He said, look, if you think you got this, I'm going to let you go for it. I'll be there. I'll support you, but you're going to take the lead. So I went in, we went down to Bentonville, Bentonville, Arkansas, which is where Walmart is. And we spent a couple days there working with the buying teams and going through the negotiations. And they really had tremendous respect for the approach, the analyticals, the solutions that we presented to them. And we got the deal done. It was closed. We were able to, get the $10 million deal. It turned out to be a huge success. And what I really learned from that experience was that in order to create listening and leadership, it's really about creating the sense of confidence and rapport that's necessary to be listened to. Oftentimes we consider being listened to as, as dignity and honor and feeling heard. But in order to do that, we need to earn that spot. We need to create that opportunity. And so for me, that was a really defining experience in understanding what listening and leadership was. I think the second experience I'd love to share is listening to thyself and really hearing thyself. I have been in consumer products my entire career, 30 years. And one of the things that I've learned through the 30 years is that it's most important to listen to others. And the more that we open ourselves up to listening to others, the more we can learn. And one of the interesting experiences that we don't learn in life about listening is about listening to ourselves. And really, in many ways, listening to ourselves will be able to provide us the answers that we need to create that opportunity in leadership with other people. And so one of the experiences I had when I turned 40, I had some health issues I was having. And I realized that, as busy as we all are, working mom, have 2 kids to manage, I'm married, all these experiences in life that you have going on around you, you often can put yourself last in listening, right? You're not priority in that experience at all, right? So we like to listen to our friends and our family and our husbands and our children and our coworkers and our bosses and, all those things, our partnership deals. But it's really listening to yourself that really actually elevates your leadership capability. Yeah. So I spent some serious time reflecting on what was going on internally, really looking for a pathway to self-heal. At the time, they wanted to give me drugs and suggested all these options, but really none of them were things that I wanted to pursue. I realized and felt that it was something that I could do by just listening to myself. And taking that time, it took me about 18 months to do the research and continue to dive deep and analyze and think and just get real introspective. And what that experience taught me in terms of leadership is how important it is to trust yourself, to guide yourself, and to listen to yourself so that when you project that to others, there's a confidence that comes deeply from within. And that experience completely shifted the last decade of my life. It has caused an opportunity for me to be much more vocal in some of the other things we're going to talk about, owning my life and owning what I do, having a voice and feeling not only empowered in myself, but empowered to empower other people. So I love that listening is the first thing in love leadership because it is super critical to learn how to listen. And it is something that we are actually not critically taught.
Yeah.
but it is actually one of the most important characteristics that one could have when it comes to leadership.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that, Korie. That's really great, and some really important points there about how it is for you as a person first, before then you can kind of go on and do it for other people as well. So yeah, that's really
Absolutely.
great. Thank you.
Thank you.
So, in terms of thinking about those experiences of being listened to, how does that compare to, not being listened to? And how does that, how do you actually get yourself heard if that's something that you find difficult?
So, great question. So, one of the things we learn is as we evolve in I feel, both in your personal life and your professional life, right? We run parallel paths. And for those of us who are honored to have our own businesses, those paths become very intertwined in life, right? It's not business and pleasure, it's everything together, which becomes seamless. And during that time, during that evolution of understanding really that experience of being listened to and relating to and connecting with people, it's really about understanding other people and other people's truths, and understanding how and what other people need to understand how they're going to accept what you're saying. In other words, let me explain it a little bit differently. One of the things that we learned in NLP, which is neuro-linguistic programming, is about how to connect and create a rapport with people. And what you realize is that everyone on the planet has a map. And in that map, they have very defining reasons why they go left and they go right. And unfortunately, as human beings, it would almost be impossible for us to understand what each human's map looks like. But there are some ways to summarize how people's maps are. In fact, in NLP, you learn about eye tracking and how eye tracking takes people to certain different feelings and emotions and experiences in their life that have created a reaction to something. And so oftentimes listening is misunderstood to perceive that listening as only words. And really understanding people's emotional connection to their body and their body movement, to their eye movement, and to their visual expressions are actually just as important to understand listening. And so where I've seen where I haven't been heard or where people haven't listened to me is my own inability to connect, to understand what that individual's need was to listen to me. In fact, it's my accountability to understand the needs of other people in order for what I have to say to sink in and land on them the way that I want them to understand that. And so what often happens in listening is that we transfer the power and responsibility of listening to the other individual. And really the responsibility and power of somebody absorbing and listening to you is about your understanding their map, their needs, their wants, and their desires. So, of course, it's confusing and bewildering when someone doesn't listen to you, right? It's frustrating and overwhelming, and sometimes it could be, it can trigger certain reactions in yourself of, insecurities or lack of confidence or inability to create impact, and it can take you down the wrong path. And so not being listened to is something that we have to take full accountability of. We have to make choices that allow us to create that rapport and relationship to the people that want to listen to us, to how we can create an experience where we can create that connection, that the listening becomes natural. It's kind of like we talk about the experience of when you are with people who don't want to truly create that connection and rapport, you feel this block when you're talking. You don't feel this natural pathway or flow. Versus when you're with your best friend, or you're with your husband or your wife, or you're with your children, speaking becomes more natural. Now, maybe not with your children because they don't want to listen to you no matter what, but it becomes a more natural pathway. And when you start to realize what's created that natural pathway, it really stems from respect, rapport, trust. And so often listening is misunderstood in terms of what it really is defined as. And when somebody really listens and they connect on a much deeper level. And in fact, they talk about when you listen to something that really you only hear 3% of, or maybe up to 10% of what people say, right? So the idea is, how do you create listening that's full of impact? Yeah. How do you create a listening experience, both in you receiving information and you giving it? And the last piece of that for me, in terms of, you know, when you're not being heard, is realizing and recognizing presence. And the idea of people actually being there with you in that space. I talk about this interesting experience I had earlier this year. Actually, it was last year in 2019. The years have blended together. But I went to a concert with my husband, and we went to go see Madonna. And we arrived at the concert. Yeah, love Madonna. Hadn't seen her in years. We paid a ridiculous price to go see her. She's, I think, 60. I think she's in her young 60s. Yeah. Did you see her?
No, I didn't. I've seen her once, but not recently.
Right. This was a tour she just recently did, and she charged a lot for it. What was interesting was the concert didn't start until 11 p.m. at night. Now, Madonna's 60 years old, you know, and she rocks. She's amazing. She looks amazing. I mean, what she puts out, you know, her creativity, her art, her talent, the fact that she has shared it for so many years. But what's most interesting about this concert, and we're big concert goers, we love musicians, we find that their talent is, and what they do to share with the planet is so inspiring. But what was interesting about this concert when we went was they actually locked up your cell phone when you arrived at the theater.
Oh, okay.
They locked it into a box, and you were not allowed to open the cell phone until you left the theater at the end of the evening. Now, we arrived at about 10:30 at night. The concert started at 11, and we didn't leave there till about 2:30 in the morning.
Wow.
So it was a very long concert. It was fabulous. It was amazing. It was an amazing experience. I was very reluctant to go, both from the cost and, of course, the time, but it was well worth it. What was so amazing about that experience, and was really transformational for me, was that not one person in that entire facility, and I don't know how many thousands of people were there, had a cell phone. And so the value of being present in an experience where you could really listen to each other, you could talk without distraction, and you could be fully present to the experience that you were having in that moment, was actually life-changing for me. It made me realize how distracted we are when we sit and talk to people, whether you're being listened to or you want to listen to somebody else. The value of zoning into that experience is so powerful. And that night turned out to be so magically powerful. Madonna's amazing. Music was amazing. She was inspiring. She's living in Spain. She had all this cool music and artists there with her to perform. But what really made the difference was the value of being present, was the value of not allowing distractions to keep you from really absorbing the moment of listening to every aspect of the experience. And so I encourage those who are leaders and use this love leadership experience. When you think about listening, it's not just about giving and receiving, but it's about the value of really being present to the experience. So that would be my response to you, Cindy, about, you know, when you feel listened to, when it feels great, and when it feels, you know, like it's missing something, there's a value of to really being present to that experience that changes the outcome.
And I totally love what you're saying about like the power of that, the power of actually hearing more than just the words, the power of being in touch with yourself, and, you know, throwing away that internal dialogue and just being there in the moment. It's just amazing. I get it. It's amazing. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Just thinking about the model of love leadership, and own being the second kind of point of love leadership. How have you? What's the biggest challenge that you've overcome to own your stuff? And what did you do? How did you do it? And how did that benefit you?
So great question, Cindy. So I would say probably the biggest challenge I could think of, where I feel that there has been a big impact for me, or a big transition for me over the last 5 years, is changing my career focus and spending more time globally on larger stages. So there's a big difference in speaking one-on-one or in a boardroom setting, which I spent the first 25 years of my career doing, sitting around a boardroom table, much like the one I'm sitting in front of today, where I would have, 4 people, 5 people, 10 people, whatever it is. But, it was a very intimate setting, and you could create a lot of dynamics and relationship with those around you. So creating that rapport and connection to the audience, relationship was at a very different level. Now that I speak on global stages and I speak in front of thousands, creating an experience of feeling listened to or heard, or expressing and connecting with the audience is very different. It feels more one-sided until you open yourself up to the experience that actually the presence and the experience that you can create, the control and the demand for someone to want to be in your presence, them borrowing your sense of confidence from stage so that they really get sucked into the experience, the storytelling, the emotion, creating that connection on this vibrational level. It's totally different than sitting in a boardroom or one-on-one with a friend. I had this experience years ago. We did this handwriting exercise, which I highly recommend. Get a bunch of girls together, hire someone who's a handwriting expert, and they will evaluate your handwriting and tell you and read for you who you are. Have you ever had that experience, Cindy?
Never had that experience, but it's going on the list.
It's fascinating. So I did it with 10 of my closest girlfriends. We hired this guy to come in, and I had done this years ago when I was interviewing for a job. It was probably about a decade ago. And it was scary, fascinating, the depth of what they read from my handwriting. It was amazing. Now we flipped the coin and did it as friends. And one of the things that came up in my handwriting, which was so interesting, and he talked about it in front of my girlfriends, was that one of the things he saw about me was that I was considered a garland girl. Now, garland is what you put around your Christmas tree, right? You hang the beautiful garland around your Christmas tree. And it's all connected together, right? The garland is all connected together, and it beautifully is woven throughout your Christmas tree. And so the way he described me was a garland girl, right? I'm about bringing these magical connections, people together. I'm kind of known in my town with all my girlfriends. I have all these different, we put all these events together. Anytime anyone wants anything done, they call me like, hey, can you get this done and get this put together? And I happily do it because I love the connection of people. I love the connection point of human beings and connecting the right human beings together. So getting heard is about connecting the dots for people. And it's about bringing people and really herding people in a very positive way, herding people together into similar experiences. And so being heard is about identifying the components that are important to those that are listening. I'm going to say that again. It's important to connect those dots that are important to your audience. So one of the things I teach my business owners that I work with at Industry Rockstar and Rock Your Product is that it is super important to watch, listen, and observe who you're trying to connect with so that you can create those, what I call language of love. Funny enough, love leadership, I call it the language of love, so that when you connect the love language, like you do with people that you're in your inner circle, you create a different level of trust, rapport, relationship, and understanding to be heard. And so getting yourself heard is a lot about creating that connection point to helping your audience, whether it's one person, a whole boardroom of people, or an entire audience of thousands, to really ground down in the connection points that you're making for them, to really listen and be heard for the value that you can deliver to them. So oftentimes, people who create their own businesses, or in my business, launch a product. In fact, I'm working with a business owner right now who he's in love with his product. He's in love with the product name, and he's not open to listening to the feedback that people are saying, hey, I'm not even going to listen to your product because I don't like what it says, but I love your product. So you need to think about how your customers, your audience, the people you love and that you want to connect with, or in a leadership experience, the people who you want to follow your leadership are going to respond to the things that you say. And you know how you find out? You ask them.
Yeah.
Right? You ask them. How does this work for you? Are you open to this? And you can ask them permission. Can I be honest with you? Can I share this with you? Would you like me to take you on this journey? And so by giving them that opportunity, they will listen to you by offering permission to be part of the experience.
Totally. I love that. And I think that fits so well with the next point of love leadership, is kind of having a voice and not being afraid to use it. And I think one of my experience has been sometimes people won't say the things that maybe that business owner needs to hear in terms of their product and what it's saying and how things are different. People kind of don't ask permission to say something opposite, or that might be perceived as a challenge. But I think we do have a role in support and challenge. So V for voice, have a voice and don't be afraid to use it, is what I would say in love leadership. And also that connective listen, because you've got that, other people have got that too. So it's a mutual respect and love to maintain that kind of connectedness. But just for you, in terms of thinking about it, can you recall a time when you were afraid, or when you felt challenged to speak up and use your voice? Is there a time? Can you remember a time?
Sure. Yeah, Cindy. So using my voice has been something I was taught from a very young age, and I'll just share with you really quickly, if it's okay with you, the experience of that time. So when I was young and I was in elementary school, so I was about 8 or 9 years old, I was told by the educators that were educating me that I had a learning disability, and that my potential to strive and fulfill the opportunities in my life were going to be limited by my learning potential. So they limited my capabilities by them projecting what their limiting experience was in their life. And at that time, I had a choice, right? I had this choice of opportunity to listen and accept their perception of a limiting belief, or I had the opportunity at that point in my life to make a decision at a very young age. And I was very grateful for the parents that I had that taught me that I could have a voice and structure the abundance in my life the way that I wanted to. And that was my choice, not somebody else's choice. And in that instance, it was my choice to either borrow their perceptions of what the world looked like, or it was my choice to have a voice to dictate the way that I was going to create my universe. And I chose B. And so from a very young age, I chose the pathway of advocating for myself. Because I was very young when that happened, I realized that in every step of my life, advocating for myself was going to allow me to accomplish the greater things that I wanted to accomplish. And I feel like I'm just getting started. I'm almost 50 and I'm just getting started. And what's amazing is that every step of the way, I've been able to use that tool that I was taught at such a young age. I not only graduated Dean's List from university, but I was the youngest person in every career position I had on the executive teams that I worked on. And what was my biggest strength in those teams was the projection of my voice, was the ability to not be afraid to create an impact. Because really, honestly, Cindy, we only get an opportunity once to do something. In fact, I had an opportunity just yesterday. And, I was distracted by things that were going on because of all this chaos that's going on right now, or complexity in all of our lives. And I didn't capitalize on an opportunity yesterday because I didn't express myself. I didn't express myself because I was distracted by other things that were going on. And at the end of the day last night, I said to my husband, I can't believe that I missed that opportunity. It was there and I missed it. And it's so important when you look at using your voice that, you do it respectfully. You do it intellectually, right? You use some, your brilliance around how to craft those messages. As we get older, we learn how to influence and create impact at a different level. We know how our words can become more well-formed. We understand that there's other things that people need when you use your voice. It's not just about your opinion, but it's about the collective opinion. It's about concrete information. It's about using information as power. But the reality is that all we have is our voice. All we have is the ability to be able to connect and communicate. And one of the things that, we've spent such a grand amount of time over the last 4 or 5 weeks being home during this COVID-19 time is this whole idea of reconnecting not only with ourselves, but with our families, with our children, with our spouses, with our parents, with our loved ones, and realizing that, using your voice and connecting is important even in your own homes. And oftentimes, I had someone who reached out to me this week. I wrote a little something to my younger son who turned 15 this week on Facebook. He's starting to use social media, and I wanted to honor him. It was the first time at 15 I actually posted something about him. And I had a fellow friend of mine in Australia who reached out to me and was in tears by my message and said to me that he had a very loving mom, and there wasn't anything wrong with his childhood, but his mom never used her voice to express her connectivity, her love, her encouragement, her passion, her honoring her children like I do with mine. And he just wrote me this very touching message that, he wanted me to know that he not only admires my professional experiences and the things I do, but on a personal level, the depth of what I can convey and communicate to impact my children's lives not only impacted their life in this instance, but impacts the lives of other people. And it's really how you show up with your voice that can change and transition other people very, very completely. And I will add to that, Cindy, just the last part of that is, I did a lot of leadership in my years in corporate. I had many people work for me. And there were times that I was not the best leader. There were definitely times I did not use my leadership skills the way I learned how to do it later in my career. And for those people who rose to the top working with me, I'm super fortunate. They're still friends to this day. They've written me incredible LinkedIn reviews just talking about, unsolicited on their own, how much they loved having me as a leader in their life. And you realize that using your voice and being a leader is not about coming down to people's level, but allowing them to elevate to a new level. I mean, that's the whole beauty of finding people that you look to as leaders, is letting them come to you. And it's not a level of higher or lower or side by side, but it's a new level. It's new heights. It's creating new levels of potential and opportunity. And when you use your voice, you can create those new dimensions, if you will. Maybe not levels, but new dimensions of experiences for people. And when people really understand and appreciate your leadership style, they will let you know how much they appreciate it. They will let you know what you've done to convert and change and impact their life in every aspect of what you've done as a leader. And so I love voice being one of L.O.V.E leadership components, because using your voice is such a powerful way to be able to communicate messages that will impact people on very, very, very deep level.
I love that. That's amazing to hear that from you, and very kind of like personal messages that are filled with emotion. And I think sometimes we can shy away from emotion and expressing our true self. And I love it when people do that, and I'd like to see more men do that and feel much more comfortable with it. I don't know if it's the same for you where you live, but in the UK we're still working on men feeling comfortable and confident to share their emotions and their experience with their voice in the same way or a similar way that women do. So we're still working on that in the UK.
Yeah, and boys innately have a different emotional level set. I actually am raising 2 boys. I have 2 brothers. I have a husband. So I have a lot of boys in my universe. Yeah. And men need to be taught their ability for expression, just like women do. And they're all capable, right? Men and women are capable. And so it is a beautiful thing when, as women, we can inspire and bring that out in them, and create that connection to emotional leadership, right? Using that emotion as part of the connection you can make to leadership. So I love that. That's great.
Yeah, thank you. So thinking about the love leadership model again, the last one is E, it's empower, and that means lots of different things to lots of different people. So I was just wondering how you would describe empowerment, and how do you know when you're feeling empowered?
So, great question. For me, empowerment absolutely starts with self. So it would be an impossible task in life to consider that you can give yourself to other people, whether it be on a personal level or a professional level, if you're not fully aligned with your own self capabilities. And, we all have doubts, and we all have moments of, things we don't like about ourselves, and, we have insecurities. But one of the things I've learned over the last 5 years is, and this is just recent, right? We learn as we evolve, is that being empowered is really about accepting all those things that we don't like about ourselves, accepting and not rejecting. So much of our life, I think we work on rejecting those things and throwing them out, and, they're bad, and I don't want to face them, and I don't want to look at them, and I don't want to see them. And, like, I'm an awful speller. Like, spelling is like the word, like, I'm awful at it. I run a global company. I travel around the world. I speak on global stages. I still have to look at my husband and say, how do you spell this? And he just, 30 years in, he just rattles it off and tells me, and we keep going on, But so many years of my life, I was embarrassed by that, right? Or rejected it, or hid it, or, kept it as a place of feeling inferior. And then you realize over the years that really empowering yourself is about honoring the things, first of all, honoring all of you, the good and the bad, but accepting those things, because really just spending your life rejecting those things are just, they're disempowering. They basically suck the energy out. And empowerment is about creating the energy, creating the vibe, creating the experience that you want in your life. In fact, a couple weeks ago, with all this complex stuff going on, there was a couple days in a row I woke up and I was mad. I was mad. I was angry. I was disappointed. I mean, our lives have been turned upside down. 6 weeks ago, I was in Dubai, and then I was in Abu Dhabi, and then I was in Singapore, impacting the world. And now I'm in my home, which I love and I'm grateful for, but I'm not doing what I love. I'm not creating the experiences. And so, I woke up every day angry, and, what's happening to people, and people are sick, and that, all these things going on. And I realized, a couple days into this, like, what am I doing? Like, we all have a choice of how we get up every day, right? We have a choice of how we see the world and project ourselves. And of all people that know that, I know that. So why am I waking up every day so angry, So look, we're not perfect, right? There's no perfection. Like I always say, we're not aiming for perfection. We're really just aiming for performance. And I don't mean performing like fake performance. I mean just doing it, right? Like every day we're just doing it. Like we don't know if we're doing it right or we're wrong. We're just doing it. And so it's empowering is about really creating it within yourself. And I had a very aha moment. My husband and I have been together for 30 years. Certainly through our marriage, we've had a marriage just like anyone else. Just it's perfect, right? And I remember probably about 15 years ago, I went and saw a child psychologist because I was worried about my son. And at the time, my older son was young, and he said to me, here's the funny thing about the situation. He said, you know what? He said, it's really not your son who's messed up. It's actually really you who's messed up, and that's exactly what you want to hear from a child psychologist, right? It's really just you who's messed up. Like, really? I'm messed up? It can't possibly be. And what he taught me during the time we spent together, he was an amazing guy. He changed my life, completely changed my life. He made me realize the biggest thing about empowerment, which is accountability, right? And how easy it is in our life to pass the buck of accountability, right? Yeah. Blame it on our parents, blame it on our friends, blame it on our spouse, blame it on our children. Like it's always somebody else's problem. It's never mine. And so, I have to say empowerment to me is really about accountability and about yourself. And, once you can really embrace the journey of your own accountability, your own capabilities, your own possibilities, your own impact, And again, we're not perfect people. We're not looking for perfection. So it's not like you're not going to get up every day and like life's going to be, splendid. You're going to find the gray hairs and you're going to find the wrinkles and you're going to, you're going to get old, So whatever those things are going to happen. But the reality is to elevate yourself in a leadership capacity and to really bring empowerment and strength to other people. It really has to start with thyself and being accountable. And then you can express how to help give that empowerment, leadership, and accountability to other people. And of course, those of us who are parents see it firsthand as we raise children. I had one of our clients reached out to me this morning and just shared the exciting news that they're pregnant with their first, and they're so excited. And you think about, if you have children, how it all starts with teaching them accountability and teaching them to feel a sense of leadership in their own lives. And everything we do from our childhood on, when we work with other people, we impact other people in business, whether you're working in corporate or your own business lives. It's all about creating a sense of impact in what you're doing. You can't lead with money and financial. It doesn't work. You have to lead with love and consciousness. And you have to empower yourself based on those desires and those aspirations. And when that blends together and you figure that out, again, life is never perfect, but it allows you a pathway of success and leadership that you would not ordinarily have. And so, Cindy, I hope that answers your question around where I really see empowerment as an impact in leadership.
That's amazing. I totally can connect with what you're saying there about empowering yourself. And in Love Leadership, we talk about engaging with yourself first and educating yourself and then others. I think, it's about change and evolving, not necessarily because you're doing right or wrong. It's just, like you say, accepting just what is, and just going with that and just living your best life and just being happy and waking up every day and being glad to be alive and, making the most. But recognising that life is exactly like a heartbeat. So I always talk to people about the shape of the heartbeat. It's kind of up and down and along.
I love that.
It's not, if you like that, you're dead. So it's like,
I like that. I'm going to have to use that. I'm going to steal that one. That's good. I love the shape of the heart, right? At times we're up at the top of the heart and we're up, and other times we're down and then we can go back up. And you can create that shape of the heart, at all times you have control and capacity to do that. So that's great. I like that, Cindy. It's beautiful. Just like the cover of your book.
Yes. Yeah, I love it. Yeah. So I'm just thinking about the model of love leadership. Do you think it could be beneficial in business? And if so, how?
Love leadership in business? 100%. I think everything that love leadership stands for is really is really encompassing. Again, the biggest piece I would probably say as kind of a conclusion to this experience in talking about love leadership is really the whole concept of you can project and create love leadership in all experiences in your life. But really, love has to start with thyself. And so when you're able to create love leadership within your own planet, within your own universe, and you start to understand and dive into each of the L.O.V.E. and create the experience of what each of those are, so the listen, the own, the voice, and the empowerment for yourself, you can create the opportunity to project that onto others. And you can start to build teams and followers and people and influencers and impact. It's such a beautiful thing when you can create that in people around you. And they're able to express their appreciation for that based on the fact that they not only, one of the things I think that connected us, Cindy, so deeply, not only through our mentorship program, but, just on a personal level, is that connection to you recognizing that is how I run my businesses. That's how I run my life. This is truly authentically who I am. And I think that's what connected you to that experience for us. And same for me to you. And so it's really about how do you live and breathe love leadership every day in your life, not just when you show up, in front of people or you show up at places, But how do you create that from the moment you get up in the morning? Where are you impacting? Where are you creating? Where are you thinking that through? And where are you reminding yourself to bring that in every aspect of what you create in your life? So I hope that answers your question. To me, it's an authentically aligned experience that really will project that in a leadership experience.
That's great. Thanks, Korie. That's amazing. And,
yeah, thank you.
It's great having your feedback about it. I was just wondering, like, so just in terms of you, what's the biggest lesson that you've had, either personally or in business? Is there something that stands out? I mean, you've shared quite a lot with us already about, you know, your journey and like how that is for you, and kind of being in the corporate world and then almost kind of discovering, you know, a different sense of yourself and how it could be for you. And you know, I love that. I love the fact that you've been on that journey. And you know, I'm just wondering, if, like, for people that are listening to this, you know, what else is there? You know, what is the lessons that you've had?
So I would say the biggest lesson I've learned in my entire journey of almost 50 years on this planet is a sense of appreciation for the good experiences, the bad experiences, the ugly experiences, and what each of those experiences have given to me as a gift is what I've determined to do with that after. And so I think for me, the biggest impact in my life has been recognition of appreciation for every person that has touched me, including yourself, what you can teach me, what I can learn from you. There's a lack of realization. You know, again, you know, I'm paying university for my son to go to college. I've got another one who wants to go to medical school. You know, all these years you spend in education, academics, yeah. And there's some really fundamental pieces of academics. And I get it, it's academia. But within academia, one of the things that, you know, my next life, when I have more free time, one of my pet projects is to help people understand at a younger age what it means to really appreciate life. You know, we take so much of it for granted. And you know, there's times that we stop and we reflect. But when I have a conversation with someone and I realize how much I've learned from that conversation, that may be related to my business, may make me money, may not, may just make me a better person. You know, it doesn't really matter to me. It's about understanding and the appreciation of the gift that we have every day on earth to learn something, learn from somebody, impact somebody, learn something new that we can use to better our lives. So to me, it's appreciation and just understanding. And I think potentially because I grew up in a home where my mother was super, super supportive and very loving of the three of us, my siblings and I, and created just this unbelievably loving experience for us to live in. It helped me to appreciate other people much more. I don't judge people. You know, do I have feelings about the way they do things? Yeah, of course I have judgment, but I don't judge people because I don't know what kind of experiences they're in. But what I do is I really appreciate differences. You know, some of our best friends here in our town are Nigerian. Another couple is Indian. You know, cultures, diversity. You know, the value that we can learn in people and the way that they think and the way that they operate. You know, leadership comes from experience. And, you know, as much as young people could be good leaders too, it really, a lot of it comes from the experience of evolution of life and appreciation of all that life can bring us. In every book that we read, and every, you know, podcast we're on, every webinar, we're all doing webinars right now, every webinar we do, every interview we do, you know, one of the greatest gifts about being a leader is learning from others. And so to me, it's really appreciation. It's really understanding that we not only can appreciate ourselves for everything we are and who we bring to this place and how we show up, but appreciation for the life we have of people. I always refer back to Barbra Streisand, who I love, her song of People Who Need People, right? In fact, I'm writing a book, and I actually pulled the lyrics to her song out to use as kind of an analogy, because in teaching people about their consumer and their target audience, it's not about you and your business idea. It's about connecting to your target audience. And so I was using those lyrics for that. But it really is. It's really about an appreciation of other people, and not just about, your selfishness, but it's about other people. So I think that, to me, is the biggest lesson I've learned in life, and I will continue to perpetuate and hopefully teach others, not just my children, who I hope will go out and impact the planet as well. But my friends and my family and, business leaders that I collaborate with. And I have the great fortune to work with some big celebrities and people who have made a lot of impact in their life, not just money, but impact. And, I have a rich appreciation for how hard they work. Madonna at 60 years old to go back out and do a concert. I mean, she didn't need the money, maybe, but, really it's that deep, rich desire to keep creating some change, keep getting her voice heard, getting that out, and her appreciation for her audience, her appreciation for the people who have been there for her all these years. So it's that give and take of life that's so critical to find. And when you do, there's a calm and a peacefulness to it that you get to really enjoy the journey more.
I love that. That's great. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, Cindy.
So I've got a final question really about who you admire. Is there someone that you admire the most?
Oh, God. That's such a hard question. Who do I admire the most? Gosh, I wasn't prepared for this one. There's the obvious of people who fight for me, who believe in me and who raise me up. So those people I admire a lot. We live in such a crazy time right now. We have in our life, look to leaderships, whether it's politicians or leaders in our community, to help get through certain times. Right now, I feel very disappointed by the leaders around the planet. I don't care what country you live in. I don't care what planet you live on. The leadership is just been turned upside down on its head. And so it's hard to find inspiration from other people today when you see such turmoil going on in the world. And so it's such an interesting question in terms of who, inspires me. I think probably those that inspire me are the people who show up. Just the people who show up, and do it in a conscious way. I can't say that there's one person. I admire young people and old people who just show up and do it authentically. To me, authenticity is such a rare gem to find. And it's the authenticity in people. And today, with having to keep distance and not hug people and love people as much as we love to, really seeing that authenticity in a very transparent way. Those are people who I really admire. Those are people who really stand out for me. So unfortunately, I don't have one person or this big, besides Madonna, who I love her fashion sense. There's people in my life who I find, and I also love Madonna because she had a voice, right? She didn't hide that. I don't care how she was so disruptive and and it's okay to be disruptive, right? It's okay to be different and stand out. And I love the fact that she did that as a female leader in her time. But it's really those that show up. You love her too. I know. We'll have to go see a Madonna concert sometime together.
Great. Brilliant. So thanks, Korie. I mean, I don't know if you've got any questions for me. You may not have. That's fine. I always like to give people the opportunity to ask me a question if they want, given that I've been here asking you questions.
So I have a question for you. Thank you for letting me turn the tables. And maybe you can just take a few minutes and explain to me. So explain to me where you want love leadership to show up more than it is now.
So for me, love leadership was started. It never was love leadership. It was looking back. So it was a hindsight moment. So I kind of looked at my life earlier and looked at my life where I felt the happiest and healthiest, and thought, how did I do that? What actually was it that actually made the journey from there to there? And I wanted to be able to share that with people in the world. So I am totally on a mission, like yourselves, to create a world that I want to live in, that I want other people to live in, that I want my daughter to live in, that people are full of good intentions and can thrive and we can be connected and just spread love. And I was thinking about all of this and the people that I've helped along the way, being a nurse, being a mental health nurse, working with alcohol use and children's mental health and those kind of things. I was thinking, what are the key principles that I use that are basic to remember? Because none of this is rocket science. Love leadership. It's all been said before. It's been said a lot, by different people in different ways. And so for me, I just wanted a framework for conversation where you could conduct yourself as a leader of you and recognise that you are the master of your own destiny. And once you master that, then it's easier to help other people master that. And I talk about love because at the time when I was pulling it together, people didn't talk about love in the way that they talk about love now. And I remember going into a room full of 29 other NHS leaders and me. And I'd had a senior career in the NHS. I'd worked for Virgin Care and so I'd kind of been in big systems, big healthcare systems. And I remember rocking up to this presentation and started to talk about love. And they literally thought I'd lost the plot. They were like, who's she? What is she doing? And, it just struck me that I was, in healthcare, in social care, working in the caring profession, and we couldn't talk about love. And so that's what kind of got me on my mission around making sure that I called it something that was connected to leadership. So it was love leadership. And I just want people to just love who they are and love other people and create a community that they want to live in and they want others to live in. So, like yourselves, I'm coming at it from a different angle, you're coming at it from a different angle, but we all want the same thing, don't we? We want to be connected, we want to be loving, we want to be together, we want people to succeed. We want the planet to be great for the next generation. So for me, love leadership. I want to tell as many people as I can about it because I want them to be able to connect with themselves, engage with themselves, love who they are, be themselves, and then once they've understood that, help other people. Start being the world, being the change in the world. So that's my mission with love leadership.
That's great. So Cindy, I want to honor you for doing that. So thank you for taking that on behalf of all human beings on the planet. It's not about the word love or about saying what people already know. It's really about your voice and the way that you've crafted this together to share this experience, impact people. And it's your energy, it's your passion, it's your baby. And so just because the word love is a word that we all know, it doesn't mean that we know it and look at it the way that you've described it in your book and that you bring it to light. So we thank you for that. Thank you for bringing that to our community and to me and to sharing that with so many other people, with your beautiful mission to create a change in people internally so that can be expressed externally. So I appreciate you doing that and thank you for sharing that.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you too.
So much for joining me. I've loved it. I don't know where time's gone. I've kept you longer than we planned.
That's okay.
I'm really pleased as well.
Thank you. I appreciate your time, Cindy, and thank you for reaching out to share this time with us together and to open up the expression of thinking about love. It's a beautiful way to start my day here in Chicago. So thank you.
Thank you, Korie. Take care. Loads of love. Thank you.
Love you. Take care. Peace to everyone. Thank you.
Thank you.
You've listened to a podcast by the Love Leadership Academy with Cindy Willcocks. Thank you for listening, and to learn more about the model of love leadership, search online for Draw a Heart Around It, a revolutionary mental health treatment for individuals and companies. written by Cindy Willcocks. Dream big and live your best life.